Welcome to Girl About the Globe, a podcast for you, the solo female traveller, empowering women to travel solo with maximum adventure, minimum impact. If you want to travel solo but you're unsure whether or not you should go, then in this episode I'm discussing the advantages and disadvantages of travelling solo. Stay tuned. Is there any greater feeling than the freedom of travelling solo? Being able to go where you want, when you want, and with absolutely anyone that you want? Travelling solo has an anonymity to it. You can redesign yourself and be who you want to be with no one judging you. Once you overcome your fear about being alone, you'll soon realise that travelling solo is simply the only way to travel. So what's so great about it? No compromise. Have you ever been on holiday with someone else and felt guilty for not wanting to do something that they want to do? Travelling with others can inhibit what you really want, and you may find yourself sacrificing your own happiness for someone else's needs. When you're solo, the only person you need to worry about making happy is you. There's no give and take and no compromise. If you want to stay an extra day in a place, you can. If you desire a siesta in the afternoon, you can. In fact, you can please yourself 24/7. And there are never any arguments or awkward conversations, especially about money. If you're on a tight budget, you can eat street food instead of being persuaded to spend the equivalent of one night's accommodation in an expensive restaurant or swanky bar. Or you can just lie on the beach to your heart's content and not feel that you have to be taking a tour just to please somebody else. It's all about you and you only. Do what you want. There's no one to mock you if you want to go to the Pencil Museum or stop you from eating a cheeseburger for the second time that day. You can change your plans at the last minute or decide to travel with the hot Brazilian you just met, because you can. Plus, you get to spend lots of time with your absolute favourite person, you. It's actually a lot less stressful than travelling with someone else and having to fit into their travelling schedule. Freedom. You can make your own plans, change your own plans, or create brand new existing ones without having to ask anyone's permission. You can go shopping if the mood takes you, take yourself off sightseeing for the day, or if you really don't feel like socialising, you can just go and watch a film at the local cinema. And with freedom comes flexibility. If you arrive somewhere and you really don't like it, then you can just move on. Arrive somewhere and you absolutely love it, stay longer and revise your plans. There is no one telling you that you can't, unless your visa does, of course. Basically, whatever you want to do, you can. New possibilities. You'll discover things that you didn't know about yourself, such as how good you are at budgeting, or how much you actually like spicy cuisine. You'll find new activities such as trekking, or throwing yourself off cliffs on a bungee rope, and develop exciting new interests such as exploring ancient ruins or admiring architecture. In fact, anything which once seemed unattractive will suddenly become quite appealing as your thirst for knowledge grows. If you allow yourself to be open, the possibilities on the road are endless. Meeting lots of awesome people. You'll meet more people solo than you ever would if you're travelling in a pair or a group. Being alone makes you more approachable to others, and you'll attract some admiring glances from those who wish they were travelling alone. You won't think twice about walking into a room and striking up a conversation as you connect with others from across the globe and make lifelong friendships with amazing people that you just simply wouldn't have met otherwise. Relationships on the road seem to have their own sense of time. A day spent with someone new can feel like the equivalent of a week, and you'll soon feel that you've known someone a lifetime instead of just a few days. Travellers stick together and look out for each other. After all, everyone is on the same path of discovery, whether it's to discover the world or to discover themselves. You'll have so many offers to accompany like-minded others that the only decision you could find yourself having to make is who to spend the day with. Independence. Travelling solo will teach you to look after number one and stand your ground. Not only will you develop skills that you can transfer to everyday life, you'll soon be making your own decisions, navigating your way around, and bartering with the best of them as everything just falls into place. Obviously, any minor things may go wrong, but for anything that does, your survival instinct kicks in. So once you've overcome those fleeting moments of panic, you'll instinctively know what to do. You will find an inner strength that you never knew you had. In fact, your intuition will become so sharp that it will guide you out of situations that don't feel right and into ones that do, leaving you calm in the midst of any chaos happening around you. Overcoming obstacles will soon become second nature as you learn to cope entirely by yourself. Achievement. It was you and only you who managed to travel the whole of South America by yourself, and when you reach the pinnacle of your trip, the moment before it's finally over, you will be bursting with pride, knowing that you, yes you, achieved all of this. The memories, the friendships, the challenges and the experiences. You've navigated yourself on chicken buses, found your way through border crossings, spent time with local people, and communicated without actually being able to speak the language. And you've realised that you're actually a strong woman. Travelling solo empowers you and gives you a feeling of accomplishment that you just don't get when you travel with other people. You'll return home a more defined person with a sense of who you really are. You may not have noticed the change, but others definitely will. And finally, travelling solo opens you up to new possibilities and amazing opportunities that only come from exploring the globe alone. It equals freedom, flexibility, and inner strength, and a massive dose of independence. But I'm not going to paint it as something it's not. It does have its downsides too. Travelling is a brutality. It forces you to trust strangers and to lose sight of all that familiar comfort of home and friends. You're constantly off balance. Nothing is yours except the essential things: air, sleep, dreams, sea, the sky, all things tending towards the eternal, or what we imagine of it. Caesar Pavese. Not all solo travel is about meeting fantastic people and thinking, this is totally amazing. Not everywhere will feel right, and not everyone you meet will be the perfect fit either. Some places may be a bit odd, some people a little strange, and there may be moments when you think, what on earth am I doing? There is no right or wrong way to travel, and what works for someone else may not work for you. Even though the pros definitely outweigh the cons, there are some downsides to travelling solo. It's more expensive. Travelling solo isn't cheap, and there are costs which you may not be able to avoid. Private tours cost more when there's no one else on the same tour. Hiring a car with no one else to share the costs, such as petrol and day hire, can also add up. The biggest cost has got to be the single supplement on hotel rooms. So unless you can get a single room or find ones which waive the supplement, this can really add to the expense of your trip. But there are alternatives to paying the supplement, such as staying in a hostel dormitory room, couch surfing, or Airbnb. There is no one to share things with. Whether it's to moan about the price of a taxi, share the weight of toiletries, or have someone to bounce ideas off, it can be challenging when it's just you. There's no one to reminisce with about the time you had a wrestling match with a monkey, and no one to watch you brave a bungee jump. But on the plus side, you'll have lots of memories with different people that you meet, and that's definitely worth travelling alone for. Getting sick. Travelling can be exhausting, so it's even more important to look after yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically when you're alone. Getting sick can enhance the homesickness, the loneliness, or feelings of despair when you're by yourself. So taking extra care of your health and well-being is vital to remain positive. Getting ripped off. When travelling, it's hard not to get conned by local tradesmen, whether it's a taxi driver or just somebody selling you something in the street. Unless you have the same features as a local from that country, you will probably stick out like a tourist. It just comes with the territory, and you should be expected to be ripped off, even if it's just a bit of short change. When you're by yourself, you can be more of a target, so stand your ground, keep your cool, and act confident even when you don't feel it. And just be prepared to get ripped off at some point during your trip. Having to figure things out for yourself. Arriving in a new country again, needing to negotiate a new transport system, and having to figure out a whole new currency can be a bit stressful. Add to that jet lag and a lack of sleep, it makes being alone even harder. But this is where a bit of planning beforehand comes in. Arriving unprepared is not recommended, but if you do, you'll soon realise how helpful locals can be. Feeling lonely. It's perfectly natural to feel lonely or homesick, especially if you're suffering from travel fatigue. Dining alone, sitting on long bus journeys and exploring by yourself may get tiresome. Wishing that you had someone else to talk to and to share the burden with is really normal, and it's one of the hardest things about being alone. Travelling solo makes you appreciate everything you once took for granted, including friends and family. So be prepared to feel lonely, even if only for a fleeting moment. And finally, there are times when you'll find yourself having to face situations that you just don't want to face. But it's in those times when you realise how strong you really are, and soon you'll be able to cope with anything as your mindset adjusts to a life on the road. A broken down truck will mean extra time to interact with the locals instead of being an inconvenience. A 20-hour bus journey sitting next to a clucking chicken will eventually make a really good travel story. It's all about your mindset and how you can adjust to make your life easier when you travel. Thanks for listening to our Girl About the Globe podcast, making solo travel easier for you. Find everything that you need for your solo travels at girlabouttheglobe.com, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.